FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
That's precisely why I became Hungry Girl, because I cared enough to find that lab and drive an hour and pay $300 out of my own pocket to test 5 different things. It was like $75 each to test those things. And then I did the wrong thing. They give it to you in 100 grams, and I was like, well, I want to know how much the Twinkle has. I don't know how many grams it weighed, and I was so angry. Anyway, but I just looked it up. I Googled it, or I just, at that point, I don't even know if there was Google. I may have used Yahoo, sorry, if I'm inaccurate. Or I called information and looked for a food lab, and they didn't really work with individuals. They did a lot of work with companies. But people do lie, and that was a mom and pop company. That's a local company. And I don't know that they were being malicious on purpose, or maybe just sloppy. But the bottom line is, when you go to a place like Trader Joe's, well, you don't have Trader Joe's here, do you? Well, then you're a little bit lucky, kind of. Because they do a lot of third-party licensing. So they take people's word for it when they get products with nutritional information. I mean, for example, there were these chili lime chicken burgers. I had received dozens of emails about these burgers, and I bought them, and I liked them. But I noticed they were really fatty, and I didn't believe they had 3 grams of fat. So I took them to a lab, and they had 12 grams of fat per burger. And that was a huge difference. And I called the guy who owned the company, who seemed shocked. And I said, well, how do you test your nutritionals? And he said, well, I get certain chicken parts from my chicken distributor, and then I know what the recipe is. I said, but you don't ever take an actual burger and test that? And he said, no, because the FDA only requires you to give them the recipe, and they figure out the nutritionals based on a recipe. Doesn't take into account the guy at the bakery that puts more oil in, doesn't take into account the people who are telling you they're giving you 90% white meat chicken and it's really half dark meat. So there's a lot of unknowns, and if you eat something that seems too good to be true, then trust your instincts. It often is. So be responsible. You can't just play dumb, which is fun to do sometimes. Like calories on an airplane don't count. Things like that. I used to play those games all the time, but be responsible.